I realized as I was talking, I didn't go back to what you asked earlier, which is pushback. And I talked about
Mm,
how I get that with coaches, but I didn't talk about athletes.
okay.
Nowadays, I think most of the athletes, at least ones that are on Instagram, which is most of them, know what they're getting when it comes to me. And so do the coaches that are on Instagram. I live my life pretty transparently. So if you hire me as a strength coach,
Instagram is your warning label.
that
You're
is
like, listen, you walk in. This is what we're doing.
that's my resume. The that is definitely the warning that you get. This is don't hire me if you're not prepared for this. But before I was on Instagram, I've had high level athletes join my team late. I can think of two examples of this, once in the Netherlands, once in Germany, where I had the 95% of my team working with me for almost a month when a superstar came back late because they had gone further into the club season than anybody. And they came in and they're like, what? We're throwing frisbees. Rhett, all due respect, I've got my warm up that I like to do. And, you see, I have my mini band, my vibrating foam roller, and I am going to be doing this if that's good. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. You know your body more than I do. I would never take away the rituals that you use to go to war. And there's a great chance if you just jumped on mine, placebo effect or whatever it is, you might perform poorly. And that is not acceptable. I am here to serve the team. And at that point, I just continue what I'm doing with that athlete, can go over on the sideline. You say, jump in, jump out whenever you want. And I just proceed to slowly and passive aggressively try to mount a campaign that makes them hate their warm up while they watch us having the time of our lives, getting sweaty, getting more, working on our offhand, our kick save, our chicken wing save, our, being able to juggle off your head, like all of these interesting things, and eventually drip enough influence that they come back into the fold, which thankfully happened for the most part in those cases.
And competitors want to compete too, right? So if it's like, I can't compete against myself on this foam roller, and I'm pretty sure I could beat Brett at the chicken wing head juggle challenge.
That's right.
All of a sudden they come over. Yeah. Well, I did want to cover this too, that I think you do so well, but are you familiar with, if I said in medicine, the BSP approach?
No.
Okay. So what we learned is we thought, like, if you have a knee injury, as soon as I take care of the ligaments and the tissue, the tendons and the muscles, it goes away. But it turns out your hesitancy of going downstairs when you're injured makes it hard to rehab you because you're scared, right? So BSP just stands for bio, psycho, and social, meaning we have to address all three to truly rehab you, right? And our mutual friend, Greg Day, amazing at this, getting rehab to not be only something lives in the gym, but rather something that challenge yourself at home, challenge yourself at, social events. And in the world of sports, there is this huge BSP component, right? You could have two of the best players in the world. Like we see this all the time on these super teams. Like I'm up from LA, the LA Lakers, when we had Shaq and Kobe and Karl Malone and everybody, and we didn't win a ring, right? It ain't talent problem. Like it's something else. It's the other pieces. But to your point about warm-ups, one of the things that I know can happen in these high-level teams is you might be coaching a team which is the first time that multiple of those players have been on the same team. They've often banged it out against each other, right? And I've heard this over and over again of one of the challenges of like developing a great Olympic team or a relay team in swimming or something is you have to take people that they've spent a lot of their life hating each other. Like that's the person who took it from me, or that I'm going to take them down. And now it's like, no, we're fighting for the same goal. And in that, if you do these low-level warm-ups, like let's say ladder drills, the hatred can still like have place because I'm not getting distracted enough from it. And I remember, this will sound really weird, but the actor Paul Newman, I heard he lost his son committed suicide and he was totally rotten, and he loved car racing. And he told his coach for race cars, put me in the car because it's the only time I'm not thinking about my son. Like it's so consuming and there's so much coming at you and you got to hit the turn at this point and shift right here and hit the RPMs that you can't reserve that little space for woe is me. And I think about, in your case, those women who are on these teams can't carry that grudge because they're focused so much on which way the ping pong ball is going and how their left hand sucks at hitting it, but they got to do that, and they're being distracted, and then we're also 2 points behind, and that other team looks like they're making an advance, and all of a sudden it's like the only 10 minutes where they haven't thought about, you know, their number one rival. It's the only 30 minutes where they just let everything go and don't care about where they're standing, where you guys are standing in the challenges, right? Like, it's the only pure moment they might have of almost like physical meditation. And I just want, I want to commend you on creating that. Even if they get 10 minutes of that 3 times a week, they're under so much damn pressure everywhere else. Like, you're giving them a little bit of reset, a little bit of insight. And I never seen another coach who does that. But the other part is, can you talk about like how much you've seen that change these teams, because there are inherent challenges of getting the best Germans to play together? Right.
Yeah. This is I've never been asked this before. And it is so true that if you know, I remember reading a book where they talked about in the best symphonies in the world, in the Boston Pops or whatever, it very often the first saxophone and the second saxophone are not friends. You know, that is a competitive relationship.
Right.
It is that competitive relationship that keeps pushing the other one higher to not win first chair or to not. Yeah.
Yeah. The hatred has made them both better.
Makes them both better.
That doesn't mean that they want to play together. Yeah.
Incredible music together. And certainly on the teams I've been on, I am well aware that within positions, there is a lot of rivalry, and there's, you know, there are frenemies left and right on these teams. And the thing about it, Josh, and I appreciate the compliment. I spend a lot of time trying to think about the social dynamics and how I can use those levers of gamification to drive intent. Like in the weight room, you were mentioning, you know, how you can get out of your head of it when we were running it in warm-ups with the games, and that is absolutely true. But I'm also thinking of how I can manipulate teams in the weight room. Like, so if we're going to do a squat jump contest on the jump mat, who can jump a 40-kilo bar the highest, then there's power in me putting certain girls together in teams of 2 and 3 to compete against other teams of 2 and 3 so that they are cheering for each other, so we can maybe stave off some real bad blood that crops up. And also to, you know, that the highest jumper in that group is probably going to be my worst jumper. The second highest is going to be with the worst. And I'm going to have to do that. But it's also a way that I make the, you know, maybe some of the jumpers that aren't great a winner for a day. And I'm always thinking
positionally, like you're swapping in the best blocker or the best hitter or setter may not be the best squat jumper. So
100%.
Some humility.
I'm trying to create a weight room environment, like a cult in the weight room, where everyone associates it with a place where they achieve stuff. That it's not just Samantha, who was born to 2 NBA player parents and has been able to jump 32 inches since she was born. Like, it's not her winning every event. If I'm doing my job well, then like everyone in my group has a chance to be the winner one day.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Trust Driven Insights, brought to you by Trust Driven Care. Imagine a world where all your patient communication is in one place, seamless, effortless, and on autopilot. That's the power of trust-driven care. If you're ready to streamline your practice, check out trustdrivencare.com and see what's possible. Trust-driven insights, real conversations, smarter care, stronger business.